number 2, click on this button to see the oldest listings for rent. Step number 3, find a property that's been sitting empty for at least 20 days or longer, because that means that the landlord is losing money and needs your help. Step number 4, copy the ad.
That's it. 13% goes to the next 14. Just 20 years ago, everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur. Today, everybody
20 years ago, everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Numbers, but Rogan got a few $100 million. I want to be rich. I want to be a rich podcast, and that's what I'm going to do. But let me give you some numbers here. There's 5 million podcasts worldwide, 150 million total episodes, and around 500 million listeners. So how do you compete? WSJ comes out with this article talking about who's getting all that viewership. You ready? 35% of all the listeners of podcasts go to the top 10 podcasts. That's it. 13% goes to the next 14, 11 to 25. Then another 13% goes to the next 74, number 26 to 100. The next 400 podcasts get 16%. The next 500 gets only 5%. And the next 18% goes to, ready, 4.99 million people. That's who you're competing with. So, I want to start a podcast, Pat. You just discouraged me. Well, here's a rule of podcasting. I'm going to give you the first one first, and then we'll go into the next 19 to talk about. Never, ever start a podcast just to make money. Only do it if you feel you have a message, you have fun doing it. That ought to be your number one reason to start a podcast. Money comes way later on, especially knowing you're competing with 5 million other people. So, stick around for the next 19 keys to podcasting. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Stick around till the very end to get a free PDF. You know why I'm laughing? Because this is my 9th take. That's why I'm laughing. Did you hear that laugh? Okay. Top 10 podcasts according to WSJ.
So this is my 9th take. Okay.
Crime Junkie, The Daily,
Crime
New
Junkie,
Heights with Jason and Travis Kelce, Dateline, This American Life, Call Her Daddy,
This American Life,
Morbid, Stuff You Should Know. And by the
Stuff
way,
You
a
Should
chart
Know.
came out talking about what topics
I'm
are
talking
the ones that
about-
win the most on podcasts. Here's what the numbers
I'm
were
talking
according
about
to
on
Pew Research.
podcasts.
Crime, 24% of most podcasters. Then 10% is politics and government. Then it's entertainment, pop culture, and arts, 9%. Self-help and relationship, 8%. Sports, 6%. History, 4%. Money and finance, 2. Comedy, 2. Religion, 2. Science and technology, 1. Health, 1. Multiple topics, 20. And then other is 12%. Now, when you think about podcasting, most of you guys would say, oh my God, it must be like blowing up with more people getting into podcasts because everyone's starting to figure this thing out. What if I told you podcasting has dropped? It peaked during COVID because everybody was home and everybody was listening.
Everybody,
So
okay, was listening, okay.
Podcaster at that time, and we had a lot of time to listen to stuff. That's why Tiger King blew up, because we were all home, not because we're fascinated by tigers, although he was funny. Look at this here. From 2020 till today, podcasts, it went from 300,000 active, 400,000, boom, 600, 700,000, almost to 800,000 active. And then guess what happened right after COVID? Dropped back down to 400, and now we're back down to around 450 today, podcast, because a lot of people got into it and they left saying, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. And the money hasn't even reached podcasting yet. Right now it's around 3 billion a year. It's going to be a lot more than this, but right now it's 3 billion. So meaning the point is, a lot of people are going to get filtered out because they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it because they want to get rich instead of just trying to have fun with it as well. That's why I told you, number one reason for starting a podcast cannot be money. Now, having said that, if you still want the other 19 tips on starting a podcast, stick around. Point number 2, when it comes down to podcasting, make a list of topics that you know a lot about, that you're passionate about, that you can go deep on. For example, you may say, I know a lot about baseball. There's some big podcasts. I know a lot about Walt Disney and the story of Disney. Great. A guy who was a lawyer making 200 grand a year, left being a lawyer, and at 40 years old, because he know everything about the Disney history, started a podcast and he blew up. What do you know a lot about that you can go deep on? If you look at Rogan, Rogan can go deep on a lot of different topics and he can go wide. But you don't have to be that right now. You can simply choose one and go deep, and then eventually you can go wide. I started off talking about entrepreneurship. Then gradually I went wider. But what's your niche? What is the one thing you know for a fact you can talk about, you can hang with anybody on that topic? Is it parenting, kids, raising kids, marriage, pregnancy, finance, money, investment, real estate, crime, history, military, whatever it is? Choose the one topic that you know you can go deep on and start your podcast on that one niche. Number 3, what is your outcome of doing a podcast? Remember earlier I said don't make it money. What is it? Is it fun? Is it curiosity? Is it documenting so later on your kids can see 10, 20, 30 years from now? What's the outcome of you creating a podcast? Very basic. Take a paper and pen and start writing it. I'll tell you mine. At first, when I started Valuetainment, wasn't a podcast, it was content creation, was because I wanted the market to know how I do business. If you like how I do business, let's find each other. If not, I totally get it. Eventually, that turned into a few million subscribers. It turned into a consulting firm when I got a call from somebody saying, Pat, they called Mario. They said, hey, we'd like to hire Patrick to be our consultant. What does he charge per engagement? I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. I said, just go back and give a number to the guy. Mario,
Go back and give a number to the guy, okay? Because I'm a numbers guy. So go back, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay?
goes back, says, hey,
Says,
Patrick
hey,
consults for $5,000 an hour.
$5,000.
He says, Pat, they asked for 3 hours. I said, what? He said, they're 3 hours. I said, what do you mean 3 hours? $15,000. How do we even collect payment? I don't know. I'm sending a PayPal link. That's how it started for us. And then now it's consulting from 10,000 businesses. We consult for 60 plus different countries called beddavid.com. You can go to beddavid.com, Beddavid Consulting, learn more about it. What's the moral of the story? The original outcome was because I was an entrepreneur businessman and I'm sharing my content. Later on, turned into a lot of opportunities. Now, PBD Podcast, we already had 4 million
PBD
subscribers on
podcast.
our channel. Then we started
PBD
podcast
podcast,
because
okay.
I want to talk about
So
current
on the
events,
BBD podcast,
politics. What was the outcome of this? I
What was
wanna
the outcome of
freely
this?
talk about all the events that's taking place because I got a
taking
lot
place?
of opinions on it. Our first podcast we ever did, I was wearing a Mickey Mantle jersey. You know how many people were on our live? The first one we did? 392 people. Some number like that. Do you know on our last live we did 2 weeks ago how many people were on? Concurrent? 104,000 people. Do you know how long it took us to go from here to here? A long time. But the basic outcome, I want to talk about current events. I feel like I have some opinions and I like talking to others and debating others. That was the outcome. What is your outcome of starting a podcast? Next one is a basic one, guys. Just be yourself. There's a lot of acting. They're trying to be like this guy. They're trying to talk like that guy. They're trying to talk like this guy. How do you talk? However you talk, be that person. Go look at the top 10 podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts. Ben Shapiro talks very different than Lex Friedman talks, very different than Dax Shepard talks, very different than Rogan talks, very different than Dylan.
Lex Friedman talks like that. Yeah, Lex Friedman podcast. He puts you to sleep. It's like ASMR.
Then Andrew, all of these podcasts, Call Her Daddy, they're all very different. But what's your personality? Some talk like this. So today we will be talking about health, and we're going to talk about what you need to do to make sure your stomach is clean. Like that guy talks at that pace. Yeah, he's got millions of followers on a monthly basis. You have a problem with him? You'd love to have that as well. Do you know why people show up to him? Because he actually has know-how about a product, going deep. His personality is trusting, likable, right? And he's curious. He's asking the right questions, and he's got knowledge to transfer to you, right? He's giving you knowledge. But if there's one thing that the guys at the top do very well, they're themselves. Some energy is here, some energy is here, some energy is here.
Some energy is here.
Every one of them is being themselves, and you, the viewer, likes them. A lot of time when people start a podcast, they want to interview the biggest guy. I'm going to interview Michael Jordan tomorrow. Hey, Michael, can you get on our podcast? You know what I'm saying? President Obama, I am so committed to your views. Mr. Trump, President Trump, we have to have you on a podcast because I think I'm going to interview different than anybody else. That's not how this works. You know who you start off with? With the local guy that has a pizza shop, and he's got this nice recipe, but they've had this pizza shop for 58 years, and it's been past 3 generations, and you tell the story, and you know how many views you get? 226 if you're lucky, without even your mom and daddy watching. Can you do that? Can you do that? Do you know one of my first videos I did? I'm wearing a pink sock, by the way, okay? In this video, you know how many views that video got? First day, less than 30. I was calling my friends and family saying, did you watch the video? They said, what video? Because nobody had a clue who this guy was. There's like, what are you trying to be a motivational speaker? Is that what you're doing? No, man, I'm trying to create. Can you support me? Come on, you're going to stop this. Most people don't believe you're going to continue with the podcast that you have. What is the moral of the story? Here's the moral of the story. Start small. Don't expect to have the bigger guests. You may have certain people locally. You know who I used to have on my podcast at the beginning stages? You ready for this? You ready for this? My barber, Michael Rapatoni, who's got the perfect hair. He would be on my podcast. You know who I had one time? One time in our office, everybody in Texas wanted to get a license to carry. I brought this girl, Jera, to be teaching all of us on how to get a license to carry. I liked her so much. I invited her back on a podcast. She's not a podcaster, but it was good to talk to her. Tom Ellsworth's a regular guy. I brought him on the podcast. We start having conversation. I go to insurance conferences every year. This guy kept coming and talking to me every year. Leave me alone, but I liked his charm. And his name was Adam. He got on the podcast. he wasn't a podcaster. You're first going to start off with regular people. Then I'm going to tell you the other story on how to get the bigger names. But first, keep in mind, you're going to have to start off with the smallest people and then graduate to the bigger one. And how do you do that? I'll tell you on the next step. You want big people on the podcast? Here's what you got to do. It's 2014. I want to go and interview Mark Cuban. I tell my guys, Tikran, Maral, Mario, I'm about to interview Mark Cuban. I say it 6 months before it happens because I went to an in conference and I saw him. I like the way this guy thinks. I want to interview him. I sent an email to Mark and I said, hey, I want to interview you. I think we can move 3,000 copies of your book on competition. He responds back and he says, do you really think I need 3,000 copies sold at 65 cents a copy? I said, I guess you don't. What can I help you with? He says, I got a new app that came out called Cyberdust. If you can help me get downloads, I'll consider doing an interview with you. I said, how many downloads do you need? He said, 500. I said, give me a couple months. I leave. I learn about the app, come back. I'm doing an event at Glendale College with a few hundred people there. I tell Mark, watch this weekend on download. We go to Glendale College, come back. By the end of the week.
Watch this week on download. By the end of. Okay.
Again, he gets 1,500 downloads of Cyberdust.
Yes.
I said, how's it look? He says, you definitely push a lot of downloads. I said, when can we do it? I flew to Dallas, American Airlines Center, went in his office, in his building, with my terrible cut. If you see this haircut, you should see the video. It's horrible. With an orange sweater. I had no clue what I was thinking about wearing that orange sweater, but we had a great conversation. I gave him a gift at the end, which was my signature. I used to give every guest at the end a unique gift. I gave him a first print, first edition, first sleeve Atlas Shrug that I think I bought for a few $1,000s. I gifted him.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I appreciate
That's
you.
a great gift. One of the best I've got.
Thank you so much. That became one of those interviews that took off for me. But I went and said, what do you need from me? Instead of, let me tell you why you need to be on my podcast. Doesn't work that way. This kind of goes to 7, which I kind of give it on 6. Unreasonable hospitality. Give me a special treatment. If I agree to do certain things for you and I'm willing to do it, what gift are you going to give me? Let me walk away thinking about something. I gave Kobe, right after he was making his movies, I gave him the original script of Star Wars. He was blown away by it. Every one of my speakers that I bring out, I get him a special gift, things that I give him for them to remember. And that was one of the things I did with Mark. Think unreasonable hospitality. By the way, a lot of people want to give merch of your brand. Why do you think someone's going to wear merch of your brand with 66 subscribers or 17,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers? They're not a fan of yours. You're a fan of them. Get them something authentic that matters to them so they walk away saying, they treated me well. It was lots of respect. Had a lot of fun. Good interview, good question. And they actually gave me value for the little gift that they gave me. That was awesome. Special touch, unreasonable hospitality. 8, you ready for this one? Most people are not going to like this. When I was married and I have kids and I'm running the business and I'm traveling the country all over the place, I didn't wait for people to come to me to interview. I went to them. I'm in LA. I interviewed Michael Francis 2 hours after I interviewed Jordan Belfort. Then I interviewed Lewis Howes. Then I went and interviewed 3 other people the next. I had stacks of 6 interviews I had in 2 days that I can launch 1 every week or 2 every other week. And so I had a lot of inventory. I'd go to New York. I would start off with Scaramucci. Then I would sit down with Jen Crystal. Then I would sit down with Ariana Huffington. Then I would sit down with Bernard Kerik. I would do 6 interviews. But when you're small, you got to go to everybody. People are not going to come to you when you're small. And by the way, Tucker Carlson just this week was ranked as #1 on Spotify. He was ahead of Rogan for a week. Guess where he went to interview? Russia, Australia, Poland, anywhere. This guy, after he was already #1 in mainstream media, you mean to tell me you're willing to travel? That's why he climbed out of being not a podcast or TV guy to #1 that quickly, because he went to his guests way after he was already big. Next point, 9. Listen, remember how earlier I said these are the niches that do very well: crime, health, self-help, all this other stuff. Whatever you know a lot about, you can do your podcast on that, or you can do reaction videos. Here's LeBron James just got traded to the Lakers for this much contract. You know what? I don't think this was a good trade. If it was me, they should have done this, that. Today, the interest rates have climbed to the highest they've had in 20-something years. You know, what are they doing? Why do they want the economy to crash? There was an assassination attempt. Reaction. Here's what I think. That's one format, right? Current events, reaction, evergreen interviews, success stories, talking to people, bringing expertise of what they think about what happened. That format works. So either choose a niche, do the interviews, have reaction, current events, but that is kind of like the play on how it works when it comes onto podcasting. Next point, you'll see some of these podcasts nowadays, the way they ask the question, you're like, he sounds like a robot that he's asking the question. That's okay if you're getting started, because you can go on ChatGPT and say, what are the 10 most unique questions to ask whoever you want to interview, right? What are the 10 questions that's never been asked of this? What are the 5 most unique
Of
angles
this.
to take when it comes onto the topic of marriage, right? And that can feed the things to you. And that's okay to do that. A lot of podcasters that are not necessarily the most flamboyant and, energetic type of podcasters can go that format. And that's a good start, but that's not what's going to get you to be competing in the top 1,000, top 500, top 100, top 50. That's a whole different skill set. But at the beginning, leverage AI. There are so many tools nowadays to create shorts, to create the way your thumbnail, the looks, what things to ask, how to ask. There's so many things with AI. Don't be the one that's like, I'm too good for AI. I'm going to do it myself. Go use the tools because your competition is going to use it against you and they're going to do laps around you because they're leveraging AI and you're not. So that's great. You need to use AI, but this is the next key. For example, you ask a question according to ChatGPT. So in 1978, when XYZ happened, and this is what was going on at that time, how do you think your father felt at the time when XYZ happened? Oh, great question. Let me take ChatGPT, right? You give the answer. But that's where it starts. How did it make you feel? How do you think he felt? What was happening at that time? Later on, when you talked to your dad about it, what did he say? What did he think? Did you guys have a moment? Was there an emotion? Was there tension? What was it like when you spoke to him? How did your mom feel? Because they're no longer together. Do you still think your mom has certain feelings towards your dad? Like, this is when you're now peeling and you're getting to the real why of the why of the why of the why of the why. That's what great podcasters do. Anybody can start off with the first one, but it's the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth follow-up. Boom! You got the answer everybody's looking for. And that's the art. The art of this is what you got to study the greatest interviewers. And you'll see what they're doing. I'll give you a couple people you ought to study to get better at this. I studied a lot of coaches, football coaches, when they're doing interviews. I like how they think. Number 2, I studied a lot of comedians like Johnny Carson when he's interviewing people, old school Johnny Carson when he's interviewing someone, you'll see what kind of questions they ask. Negotiators, especially like FBI hostage negotiators. I know that's a bad example, but those people that are able to get somebody that's ready to kill someone to ask the questions to calm them down and bring them down and be able to answer questions. These are some incredibly great skill sets to learn while you're interviewing somebody, right? So pastors, how does a pastor get up there and give a speech and ask you the questions and tugs your heart, and then all of a sudden you're seeing hundreds of men and grown women in tears, and then they're willing to get up and go up there? That is a skill set to be able to deliver a message like that. Coaches, pastors, comedians, talk show hosts, David Letterman asking tough questions, poking, challenging, Howard Stern. These are very unique set of skill sets that most people don't spend a lot of time learning, but that's the edge if you're able to do that. Here's the next thing. Point number 13, very important. A lot of people are getting on there and saying, like, you know what, I'm going to get canceled because I'm going to talk about controversial stuff because that's how I'm going to get big very fast because I'm going to talk about anything. They can't stop me. And then all of a sudden you get in trouble with YouTube or whoever it is, right? Learn how to communicate, okay? Words to use, allegedly, possibly, we'll see. Let me speculate. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Do your own research. These are words great communicators use that are doing podcasts that allows me, the viewer, to say, let me go do my own research. You know what? He's just speculating versus saying, I guarantee you these people are lying. And I'm telling you there's something like that. If you choose to go to politics, because that's number 2, right? True crime, then it's politics and government. If you go that route, maybe you'll have something like this where you go up, but it's like this and it's done. You're going back to zero. I got guys that put on their profile on Twitter or YouTube, 6 times canceled on YouTube, 15 strikes on this, 8 times canceled on Twitter. You know how I interpret that when somebody says something like that? All I think about is you don't know how to communicate properly. You just don't. You don't know how to communicate properly. That's not something that you brag about. There's ways to delivering your message without being sensationalist. That would be feedback to some of you guys that want to get into politics. This next one is basic, but it's very important. Preparation. Either you can have a research team that you pay $20, like Fiverr, and it's easy to find nowadays. Hey, can you research on this topic? I'm planning on doing an episode on it next week. Send me whatever you find on this. Great. Or ChatGPT research, or all these other things. But you need the supporting cast on research to send you stuff that maybe you're not thinking about, to come up with an angle that's very unique, right? That's that part. And then from there, when it comes onto thumbnail, editing, there's apps that are AI is taking over 80% of the job of creating a podcast. At the beginning, I had a guy spend $100,000 to start his own podcast. You know how many episodes he did? He shot 10. You know how many went live? This many. Don't go spending too much money. Basic stuff right off the bat before you do anything wild. Camera, use this camera. Audio equipment, basic stuff to use at the beginning. Then, after about 50, 100 episodes, you can start investing a little bit more money. I'll go buy this, I'll go buy that, I'll go buy this. But at the beginning, don't put too much money into it at the beginning. You can do that later on. This next one, a lot of people are not going to like. Many people will tell you, never read the comments. Never, ever go through the comments. I read the comments. Why do you read the comments? Not because I'm a masochist. I know the difference between people who are just trolls who hate you. You can't let those guys bother you. But then I also know the people that are reasonable. And when you're smaller, you actually know pretty much 80% of your regulars that comment. I can tell you my regulars the first year that commented. I know my regulars the first year of podcast, the second year. I know. Now we have a lot, but at the beginning I knew. So I'd say, this guy's actually fair. You know what? He was not a fan of the way we did XYZ today. Great feedback. Let me kind of take that inventory. Okay, interesting. They like when we do this. Great. Let me see how many more people say this. Let me run a poll on it. But read the comments if you're able. And it's almost at the beginning to take the feedback. It's necessary to get it at the beginning, but be able to decipher between a troll, between the guys that you can't make anybody happy, and then that's, special 10, 20, 30, 40 people that are commenting regularly. That becomes your real, true fans. Follow a little bit of the feedback they give you. They're going to give you so many areas that are your blind spots, and they'll remind you what you used to do right. Next point. This is tough to do. Most people won't do it. Most people do podcasts. And then next time they won't do one for 3 weeks. And then they won't do one for 2 months. And then they'll do 3 in a week. And then they'll go do 4 in a month. And then they'll do 1 in 3 months. Here's what I said. If you're going to start it, be serious about it. My dad always told me, if you start something, finish it. I didn't start for a minute, but when I did, here's what I said to me before I started the podcast. Show what's called 2 Minutes with Pat. And here's how it worked. 2 Minutes with Pat, I said, I'm going 2 years, 1 per week. That's all.
Sometimes when I'm tired and I sit outside, 4 kids come around trying to get me high. Nobody come around.
104 videos committed. You know how many we did? 1 a week for 2 years. You know how many subs I had after 2 years? 2,000 subs, barely. 1,500, 2,000 subs after 2 years. Nothing was going on, but I had inventory of different things that worked and didn't work. One got 2,800 views. That's a lot of views when you start with 0, right? And it was exciting